It is no secret that Jirachi is coming soon to Pokemon Go. Trainers participating in Pokemon Go Fest will be able to have an early access to Jirachi, just like Celebi last year, and soon after, Jirachi will become available to trainers worldwide. The only question remaining is, just how good is Jirachi in Pokemon Go? As usual, this information is following my article on GamePress, Jirachi in the Raid and Trainer Battle meta. So if you want some additional reference material, or maybe you don't want to reference a video if you're looking for some specific clip of information, well then check out the article. So starting out, Jirachi isn't a very impressive Pokemon. It's Psychic and Steel-type, which is great, but we already have that in Metagross. And when you look at the stats, the attack, defense, and stamina are all pretty blasé and are identical to Mew and Celebi. So all the Pixie-type mythic Pokemon here all have the same stat spread, and as a Psychic-type attacker, Jirachi is as impressive as both of them, which isn't impressive at all. One thing that makes Jirachi stand out above the pack, though, is its access to its special signature charge move. No other Pokemon except maybe Smeargle can learn this attack, Doom Desire. So looking at the stats, in PvE/raid content, Doom Desire has a base power of 80, a move cooldown of 1.7 seconds, and a charge energy of 50. This gives it a DPE times DPS, damage per energy times damage per second, of 75.29. If you're not familiar, this means that Doom Desire in raid content is on the level of Community Day exclusive charge moves, which is pretty impressive for our little Jirachi. In PvP, however, things are much more impressive. We have a base power of 80 and a blinding charge energy of 35. This gives it a damage per energy of 2.29, which is higher than any other charge move currently in PvP, which is extremely impressive. If you're curious about this energy and base power going on here, think about Altaria or Skarmory's Sky Attack, but 10 energy sooner. So this attack is pretty wild. So what does this mean for Jirachi in the meta? Well, in raid content, it's really not all that impressive. Metagross already exists, and it does everything Jirachi will do, except way better. In fact, in key matchups, the graph shown here is using a rock-type defender, so we're getting super effective hits from our steel-type attacks. Even Flash Cannon Metagross is superior than Jirachi, just because it's lacking that relevant fast move damage. If you're thinking about the future, there is the raid boss Terrakion in Gen 5, and while it is a rock fighting type Pokemon, giving Jirachi the ability to hit it with super effective damage on both ends, well, now Jirachi not only has to compete with Dialga and Metagross, but it also has to compete with Machamp, Groudon, Garchomp, like the list goes on. Too many weaknesses and too much competition for our little wish-making friend here. However, for everything that Jirachi lacks in raid content, it makes up for in PvP. Checking out this infographic of the Great League simplified by Lorman96, you can see that there's a pretty good wheel of picks going on here. Now, two Pokemon that aren't included on this graphic that do make huge waves in the Great League are Deoxys Defense Form and Mew. You can think of Mew as being kind of like an analog to the Ghost-type Pokemon, more or less, and Deoxys Defense Form just a replacement for the Metacham here. So they are here with us in spirit. While Jirachi straight up dominates tons of these matchups. The Grass-type Pokemon don't have anything on Jirachi. The Flying types can't even begin to touch Jirachi. The Steel types don't even want to think about Jirachi. So Jirachi is quite the monster, all things considered. If you do want to counter Jirachi in the Great League, then you may want to look at the Mud Shot users. The Mud Shot users will be able to deal super effective rapidly enough to take care of the Jirachi. Additionally, you do have anti-psychic Pokemon, so Pokemon dealing Ghost-type damage or Dark-type damage. They can also make some pretty quick work of the Jirachi. And then more bulky Steel-type Pokemon also fare a bit better against the Jirachi as well. For example, Steelix is able to resist and then hit back with super effective crunch damage, which plays into its favor quite well. When it comes to Jirachi versus the man, the myth, the legend, Deoxys Defense Form, the fight is actually surprisingly even. Yeah, so if there are no shields involved, well then Doom Desire wins. If they have even shields, well then it comes down to who has prior damage or who has higher energy. And if there is 2 shields involved, well then Deoxys Defense Form's counter damage will overtake the Jirachi. And if you're curious about the Great League's non-legendary master, Medicham, Medicham does have the opportunity to beat Jirachi if it has enough power-up punches behind it, or it has enough shields. So the match is not completely lost for the Medicham just because power-up punch is just that ridiculous, right? So in the Great League, Jirachi is a pretty powerful monster pick and will likely be banned by the Sylph League for the majority of their tournaments. However, if you do enjoy open Great League play, well then Jirachi will be a master pick for sure. In the Ultra League, Jirachi's role is near identical to Cresselia's, in the sense that it is able to counter Dragon Breath Giratinas and counter the fighting type Pokemon that give other Giratina counters some trouble. In fact, it'd be a little bit more correct to say that Jirachi takes over the roles of both Cresselia and Melmetal, as Jirachi is able to defeat the Lapras, but ends up losing to the Darklax squad and the Steelix. In a sense, people that are serious about the Ultra League, Jirachi basically replaces these 2 Pokemon, and the meta is basically as it has always been. If you are planning on building your Jirachi for the Ultra League, do be aware of Shadow Claw Giratinas. They rip right through you, just like they rip through Cresselia. As a result, it may be wise to pair Jirachi with somebody from the Darklax squad. Jirachi will be able to safeguard them from the fighting type Pokemon, and they will be able to safeguard Jirachi from Shadow Claw variants of Giratina. Just be aware that if you do go for this combo, it could put you at a disadvantage against Steelixes. So pairing this team with a fighting type Pokemon or a Shadow Claw Giratina would be recommended. And then moving up to the Master League, Jirachi has a very similar role to the main man, Metagross. So like Metagross, it's able to beat Dialga, and it's able to beat the flying type Pokemon over here, but tends to struggle against the ground and water type Pokemon. However, unlike Metagross, it is able to overcome Kyogre, Groudon, and Garchomp, given the right amount of shields, prior damage, energy, so it's not exactly a loss for Jirachi in those matchups. In exchange for this slight advantage, it does lose to Metagross just about every time, so things do balance out in a sense. As with the Ultra League, you also have the Giratina forms to be wary of. If they're packing Shadow Claw, they're going to be packing Heat on you, and then of course other Pokemon that could be featured in the Master League, such as Mewtwo or Tyranitar, might be able to give you some harassment as well. However, Mewtwo and Tyranitar don't really appreciate Doom Desires themselves, so overall, pretty balanced. I'd say overall, if you are building Jirachi for any of the 3 leagues, your best bets will be in the Great League or the Ultra League. With all of this swag in PvP, people have been questioning, will Jirachi get a nerf? Will Doom Desire be altered before its release? And I think there is a good chance of that happening because there hasn't been a move quite this powerful in PvP to date. However, I do want to counter that if things like Psycho Boost are allowed and Power-Up Punch are allowed by Niantic, despite both being relatively ridiculous attacks, I could see them keeping Doom Desire. Overall, I don't think Jirachi with Doom Desire is exactly overpowered either. In the context of the Open Great League, Jirachi is counterable in the same way that Deoxys is counterable. Bring in Dark or Ghost-type Pokemon, and Jirachi's going to be having a bad time. And then when it comes to the reigning champion, Deoxys Defense Form, they already have an even matchup with each other. No one exactly has the advantage there. And then when it comes to more basic, ultra-powerful Great League Pokemon, such as Medicham, Medicham is also able to trade blows with Jirachi given the right circumstances. So I don't think it's all that ridiculous. And then when it comes to the Ultra League, Jirachi is just fitting into the meta where Cresselia was. It beats Cresselia, so Cresselia, obviously can't stand where Jirachi is now, but Jirachi isn't really that much more than what Cresselia was, if you think about it overall. So in that sense, I don't think it's overpowered for that. And then when it comes to the Master League, Jirachi absolutely is not overpowered. While it does have a little bit more dynamic matchups than Metagross has, it's still not an absolute for sure going to win all the time Pokemon. And given that Shadow Claw Giratina is more or less the master of the Master League, I don't think Jirachi is going to have that easy of a time bouncing around up there. Furthermore, any dominance that Jirachi might experience early on is going to be quickly washed away when Hydro Cannon Swampert finally comes to Pokemon Go. We are about a month away, and it is all but confirmed that we are going to get Hydro Cannon. In fact, Swampert may even get an additional charge move in the form of Muddy Water, making it that much more deadly in PvP. The way things are looking right now for Hydro Cannon Swampert in PvP, across all 3 leagues, it will become a extremely threatening and dominant force. The Great League, the Mud Boys, watch out, man. We got a bigger Mud Boy coming in, Hydro Cannon Swampert. Jirachi, does it want to deal with that? I don't think so. Then when it comes to the Ultra League, all those fighting type Pokemon, they don't want to deal with Swampert. And the majority of the Giratina counters, they don't want to deal with Swampert. I don't think Swampert will become the most amazing threat ever in the Ultra League, like it may become in the Great League, but it will be a huge player, and a player that Jirachi will have to be wary of. And then same thing goes for the Master League. I mean, in the Master League, Swampert is already one of the topmost Pokemon there, and that's just with Surf. So with Hydro Cannon, Swampert's just going to be that much more powerful. So that about wraps it up. Jirachi is coming in Pokemon Go. It is a fact. And the way its stats are looking right now, with Doom Desire of course, it is a Raid 0, but a PvP hero. If you enjoyed this content, you want to see more like it, make sure to subscribe to SwagTips. And if you have any questions on this content, comment below, let me know what's up, and I'll be happy to help you out. That's right, fools. You thought this was a Jirachi video? Psych! It's actually a Hydro Cannon Swampert video.